Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining today's Bhagavatam class. Today we'll be reading Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please sing alongside. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayamudhirayet Shunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Hyabadrani Vidhunoti Suratsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Karantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So we'll be reading verse 16. Punascha bhuyad bhagvatyanante rati prasangascha tat ashrayeshu mahatsu yam yam upayami shrishtim Maitriyastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya Punascha bhuyad bhagvatyanante rati prasangascha tad ashrayeshu mahatsu yam yam upayami shrishtim Maitriyastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya Punascha bhuyad bhagvatyanante rati prasangascha tad ashrayeshu mahatsu yam yam upayami shrishtim Maitriyastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya Would anybody online like to chant?
Punascha bhuyat bhagavatyanante
Punascha bhuyat bhagavatyanante
rati prasangascha tadashrayeshu
rati prasangascha tadashrayeshu
Anaksu yam yam upayami srishtim
mahatsu yam yam upayami shrishtim
Matyastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya
maitrastu sarvatra namo dvijebhya.
Word-to-word translation purport by His Divine Grace, Shri Gesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Punaha, again. Cha, and. Bhuyat, let it be. Bhagavati, unto Lord Sri Krishna. Anante, who has unlimited potency. Ratihi, attracting. Prasangaha, association. Cha, also. Tat, his. Ashrayeshu, with those who are his devotees. Mahatsu, within the material creation. Yam yam, wherever. Upayami, I may take. Shrishtim, my birth. Maitri, friendly relation. Astu, let it be. Sarvatra, everywhere. Namaha, my obeisances. Dvijebhyaha, unto the Brahmanas. Translation. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas, I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Sri Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Purport. That a devotee of the Lord is the only perfect living being is explained herein by Maharaj Parikshit. A devotee of the Lord is no one's enemy, although there may be many enemies of a devotee. A devotee of the Lord does not like to associate with non-devotees, although he has no enmity with them. he desires association with the devotees of the Lord. This is perfectly natural because birds of the same feather mix together. And the most important function of a devotee is to have complete attachment for Lord Sri Krishna, the Father of all living beings. As a good son of the Father behaves in a friendly way with all his other brothers, so also the devotee of the Lord, being a good son of the Supreme Father, Lord Krishna, sees all other living beings in relation with the Supreme Father. He tries to bring back the upstart sons of the Father to a saner stage and to get them to accept the Supreme Fatherhood of God. Maharaj Parikshit was certainly going back to Godhead, but even if he were not to go back, he prayed for a pattern of life which is the most perfect way in the material world. A pure devotee does not desire the company of a personality as great as Brahma, but he prefers the association of a petty living being, provided he is a devotee of the Lord. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Please offer prayer so that the right words come at the right time in the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. In today's class, we are seeing two important themes. One of them is Parikshit Maharaj is offering obeisances to all the Brahmanas yet again. And he's also making a prayer that even if he were to not perfect his life in this birth, he would like to get the association of devotees and friendly relations with all living beings in his next life, which is a very noble ask, especially given Parikshit Maharaj's humility, because he was already at the stage where he was perfected and there was no chance of him coming back again. But he is offering this prayer on our behalf, that we may ask such a prayer of the Supreme Lord if we are so humble. The first thing is about offering obeisances. Now we see Krishna repeating a certain part of the verse twice in the Bhagavad Gita, one in 934 and then 1865. Man mana bhavan bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, and then mame vashe satyante pratijani priyosime, or he promises Arjuna that he will be saved, and he gives the four-step formula. So that's man mana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So he gives the four kind of stages that he would like the devotee to follow. So the first stage he gives is called man mana, which means he needs to follow in the mood of the ragatmika bhaktas. So man mana means he has the rag or the attachment to the service of Lord Sri Krishna, commensurate with what the ragatmika bhaktas, who are the eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha or in Golok Vrindavan, have for the Lord. But we know that these devotees, ragatmika bhaktas, they are eternally perfected, and we cannot follow them as it is. So then Krishna gives us a slight concession. So rather than trying to follow the ragatmika bhaktas in their very same mood, he wants us to follow in a slightly lower mood, which is the raganuga mood, the mood of following in their footsteps. So that's man mana bhava mad bhakto. So bhava, or in a lot of bhava mad bhakto, you become a devotee in the mood of these ragat, in the mood of the path set forward by these ragatmika bhaktas. So he gives a small concession that you can follow raganuga bhakti. But sometimes that is also not possible, because a devotee may not yet be at that stage where they can directly follow Raganuga Bhakti. They may still be in the mood of Sadhana Bhakti. So he comes a little lower and he tells what they must follow. He says Madhyaji. Madhyaji means they should offer worship, which already means they follow the Pancharatriki Vidhi, all of the vidhis associated with deity worship, taking initiation, getting the Brahman thread, offering your Gayatri, purifying yourself. Because automatically, if one were to offer worship or deity worship to the Lord, they would have to, wake up on time, have strict sadhana, and then they would offer their Gayatri 3 sandhyas. They would take shower multiple times in a day, and in that sense, their life would be very regulated. So when Krishna says Madhyaji, he means the sadhana bhakta or the sadhana bhakti that the devotee is supposed to follow. So he's given us the three rungs. He's given Ragatmika Bhakta, which all the eternal associates of the Lord automatically follow. If one is not able to be there, then he would follow at one stage lower, which is the Raganuga Bhakta stage, which is following the path set forward there. And if that is also not possible, he's supposed to follow the deity worship standards, so sadhana bhakti. And sometimes that may also not be possible, especially in Kali Yuga, where the any activity that's in sattvic bhav or anything that is trying to be in sattvic bhav is also put under a lot of strain many times. Like for example, when the devotees are traveling, they may not always have access to a temple where they can offer their worship or perform elaborate deity worship, for example. So then Krishna gives another concession. He comes forth and gives the fourth concession. That's called namaskuru. He says offer obeisances. And he lays a lot of emphasis on why obeisances are most important. So I was trying to see some of the situations where Prabhupada or Krishna has laid a lot of emphasis on offering obeisances. So I'll just go over very, very briefly three instances. So one of them is when Akrura is leaving. So this is the 10th canto, 38th chapter, verse 6. So there, Akrura offers obeisances to the Lord, and he explains why he does that. So in 10:38:6, Akrura says, "Mama adya amangalam nashtam." He says, all the amangal. Mangal is something auspicious. Amangal is something that's very inauspicious. So all the infinite amangal activities or the inauspicious activities he may have ever performed, nashtam, they will get destroyed, is what Akrura is saying. And he says, Phalam chaiva na me bhava yan namasya bhagavato yogi dheyangri pankajam. He says, today all my sinful reactions have been eradicated and my birth has become worthwhile since I will offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, which mystic yogis meditate upon. So in the recent class, Vijay Prabhu was mentioning that Yogina Hridayeshuva, Krishna does not reside in the heart of the yogis, but he resides where the glorification of Krishna's names are being performed. Similarly, here, Akrura is offering obeisances to the Lord. He's actually looking forward to and very eager to offer his obeisances when he comes face to face with the Lord. Actually, if you see, Akrura has a very thankless job of taking Krishna away from the Vrajavasis, and he may receive immense curses from them for doing that. But Akrura knows that, but he is willing to go do his duty to meet the Supreme Lord, and he wants to offer obeisances to him. Then we come to we come to the 8th chapter of the 10th canto, where Mother Yashoda receives complaints that Krishna has eaten mud, and Krishna is trying to hide the fact that he actually did that. And since Mother Yashoda received a lot of complaints, Krishna is trying to deflect the blame. He's trying to let Mother Yashoda know that he did not eat any mud. In fact, it is they're lying, and in fact, they themselves ate mud, and they're lying and complaining to Mother Yashoda. And so Mother Yashoda is like, well, okay, maybe your friends are lying, but do you really think your elder brother Balram will lie? Because Balram was also one who complained to Mother Yashoda. Then Krishna could not say anything against his elder brother, because that would be against the etiquettes. So then he kind of challenges Mother Yashoda. He says, okay, Mother Yashoda, if you really think I ate mud, I will open my mouth and you can see for yourself if there's any grains of sand that are still remaining there. And so he opens his mouth wide, and then Mother Yashoda looks at Krishna's mouth, and to her absolute horror, she sees the entire cosmos, she sees all of the creation of the world, and she also sees herself looking at Krishna inside Krishna's mouth. And she's shocked, first of all. And there's this poet, Hari Suri, who comments in his book that one should not hide anything from one's mother. And that is one of the Vedic junctions, that you can hide something from your father, but never anything from your mother. And Mother Yashoda wanted to check what is in Krishna's mouth. And Krishna thought, well, I cannot hide anything from my mother, so I must just show her what is actually in my mouth. And then he shows her the entire cosmos. And Mother Yashoda starts to see, she first doubts her own vision. She sees, maybe I've worked too hard. This is probably not, I'm probably not, in my best consciousness. So maybe I did something wrong. Then she feels herself to be functioning perfectly. Then she starts to think it could be Lord Indra, who's, put some kind of Deva Maya. That's what the verse says in 10, 8, 40 and 41. Deva Maya, maybe the Devatas, they performed some kind of illusory trick on me, and because of which I am probably seeing this. And slowly her mood of Raganuga Bhakti is going away. The way she was interacting with Krishna, with not thinking of him as God, she was trying to see, is Lord Vishnu playing some trick on me? And she's slowly trying to guess whether this is really happening or not. And her Raganuga Bhav, her real Vatsalya Bhav towards Krishna is slowly going away. And her awe and reverence for Krishna is slowly increasing. And Krishna is actually noticing that. He's actually trying to get the highest amount of reciprocation from all his devotees. So even when he was dancing on the hoods of Kalia, as Vijaypur mentioned, it took him close to 2 hours on the coils of Kalia. It was mostly because Krishna always wants an audience for all of his activities. So what he did was, he waited for every villager to come, even from neighboring villages from Varsana, to come there and to witness what he's trying to do. And it took them all 2 hours to come there and give Krishna the audience. And once everybody were there, Krishna was happy, and then he got out of the hoods of Kalia and started dancing on the hoods. So it is said that many of them even fainted seeing Krishna wrapped in the coils of Kalia, to the fact, and Krishna tried to get them to the maximum anxiety. He tried to push their anxiety to the absolute peak, and then he performed his Leela. So he always likes to see everybody's love for him to its highest degree. So even in this case, he was trying to push Mother Yashoda to fight this mood of awe and reverence, so that she can actually see that he's her son. And then when it reached its pinnacle, Mother Yashoda did something very strange. She offered her obeisances to Krishna. And in 10.8.41, Prabhupada has a very beautiful 2 sentences in the purport that is very, how can I say, very. Whenever I read that, it feels safe and secure. So in 10.8.41, the purport, Prabhupada says, when we are beset by some problem for which we can find no reason, there is no alternative than to surrender to the Supreme Lord and offer him our respectful obeisances. Then our position will be secure. So Prabhupada is laying emphasis on the importance of offering obeisances, and he gives this in the case where Mother Yashoda has no other alternative activity to perform, and then she just falls and offers her obeisances. And then she's secure, and all of the things that were shown in Krishna's mouth are all gone. And all of the things that she feared that what if something has happened to Krishna? Or what if he's actually the Supreme Lord? And Krishna himself did not want that to happen. So that's the second instance where obeisances are offered to the Lord. And the third one is something that we all know. That is Nama Sankirtanayasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranama Dukkha Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Param. The very last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said that generally the last verse, if you see the 934 and 1865 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna first gives 934, which is bang in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. 931, 932 is generally the middle. 934 is like maybe 2 verses away. It's right in the middle. Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. You can offer obeisances to me. And then maybe it might have been glossed over by the readers. So he repeats again in 1865. But he repeats it not because Arjuna was, dull, that he needed this instruction to be given again, but the most important reason is laid for emphasis. Krishna wants to emphasize that Ragadmika Bhakti is the highest. If you're not able to be there, Raganuga Bhakti. If that's not possible, Sadhana Bhakti. Even if that is not possible to the highest degree, which is actually what happens in Kali Yuga, please offer obeisances. That is you could say, one of the least concession that Krishna can give us. And as we've discussed before as well, when we offer obeisances, we need to offer a prayer. It shouldn't be a quiet obeisances, just offering dandavats or panchanga obeisances. And as Suvarnabindu Prabhu had mentioned about how the different body parts are on the floor because we are offering them to Krishna, it needs to be with utmost respect. And there are two other factors. One is your legs should be together, which means you're saying that there's no other way for you to go. So agati, which means there's no other gati or no other path for you to follow except for Krishna. So you're kind of locking your foot in and saying, I'm not going anywhere. You are my only hope. And then then you offer with closed palms, because if you offer with open palms, it means you have something to give, and you need to be in a mood of akinchana, or I have nothing to give. So you close your hands and your feet as you offer the obeisances to show that you have nowhere to go and nothing to give. And so, Krishna, I'm giving myself completely to you. As a result, please accept me. If you see, Prabhupada's words are, there is no alternative than to surrender to the Supreme Lord and offer him our respectful obeisances. Then our position will be secure. And if we offer our obeisances in that mood of agati and akinchana, and whether it's panchanga or the dandavat pranam, then that is, you could say, the elements of what obeisances are. So here again, Parikshit Maharaj is offering obeisances to all the brahmanas present there. There's also a verse that Kulashekara Alvar quotes in the Mukundamala Stotra. It is Yat Krishna Pranipata Dhuli Dhavalam Tadvamshi Tadvaishiras Te Netre Tamasojite Suruchire Yabhyam Harir Trishyate Sa Buddhir Vimalendu Shanka Dhavala Ya Madhava Dhyayini Sajivamrita Varshini Pratipadam Ya Stauti Narayanam. He says, the head which bows down to the lotus feet of the Lord and gets covered with dust. So if you see in many temples, especially in India, many people, they offer their obeisances and roll along through the entire temple. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the dust of all of the devotees who have walked past, and when they roll all the way around and perform parikrama like that, all of the devotees who have walked by, all of their foot dust would get stuck to them. So they're trying to get the foot dust of all the devotees. So Kulashekara Alvar, the king, is saying that head, which is Dhuli Dhavalam. Dhuli is the dust, and Dhavalam is, you could say, sprinkled on. So if your head is sprinkled with the dust of all the Vaishnavas, or when you offer obeisances, that head, Tadvamshi Tadvaishiras, that is the highest, you could say, the head that Krishna looks upon. Then he says, Te netre tamaso jite. If your eyes, tamas is tamasguna, or the mode of ignorance. If tamasguna has left your eyes just by taking darshan of the Lord, that is the purest vision that you could have. Te netre tamaso jite suruchire yabhyam harir drishyate. Seeing Lord Hari, if the mode of ignorance has left your eye, that is the purest eye. Then he says, Sa buddhir vimalendu shankadhavala. That mind is as spotless, that intelligence is as spotless like the white glow of the moon or a conch shell, which concentrates on Lord Madhava. And then that is Sa buddhir vimalendu shankadhavala ya Madhava dhyayini. Madhava is Lord Krishna. Whatever mind is always thinking of Lord Madhava, that mind is spotless. And finally, he says, Sa jivvamrita. Jivva is the mouth. Jivva amrita, varshini. Whatever mouth rains down the glories of the Lord, pratipadam, at every step. what is that? Yeah, Stauti Narayana. That is the yeah, and that tongue rains down nectar which constantly glorifies Lord Narayana. So he says that is the only time the tongue can give out any nectar. So all of these devotees have laid emphasis on the importance of offering obeisances. So we went over that. The next theme that this verse covers is the prayer that Parishit Maharaj is offering. That is, he wants to take birth, even if he has to take the birth in the material world, he will want attachment. I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. So if you see Vidura, when he's talking to sage Maitreya, he says there are three things that one must never do alone. So he says the first thing is to eat delicious prasadam. Delicious prasadam should never be eaten alone. It must be shared. And when honoring prasadam, it must be honored together. That is one way of sadhu sangha, and that's how it's supposed to be done. The next one that he says that one should never do alone is to make decisions. So I remember Guru Maharaj saying that whenever he has to make any important decisions, he has a few trusted, close friends and god siblings who he always goes to, and then they have very candid and very honest discussion before they make a certain decision. And if you see, there's for ISKCON, there's GBC, when there are many senior devotees who come together with decisions. Even for our temple, there's a board who come together whenever a certain decision has to be made. So this is because Vidura says decisions should have at least somebody who's offering their point of view, which could be contrary, which could be similar, but at least it's from a third person or second person, for example, who offer you some input so that you can you have the opportunity to correct your decisions. So Vidura says the first is eating prasadam or eating food should never be done alone, and the second one is decisions should never be made. And the third and most important thing is no long journey should be done alone. It is actually it is said that you should have at least 4 people or a total of 5 people when you go up for long journeys, and you should never go alone, because if you're alone, you may be able to go fast, but if you're together, then you can go farther. So Vidura says the 3 of these activities should never be performed alone, and the 3 of these activities are generally the best times when one can have association with the best of devotees. Another interesting observation of Vidura is Dhritarashtra, because I was just thinking Dhritarashtra had the association of 2 Mahajanas, 2 out of the 12 Mahajanas at the same time. And they were not just passers-by, they were literally giving him advice. That's Bhishma Dev and Vidura, because he is the incarnation of Yamaraj, who's one of the Mahajanas. So Dhritarashtra had the good counsel of both Vidura and Bhishma Dev, but as long as he had negative association, that is association with Duryodhana, the advice that they gave always fell on deaf ears. So if you see, when Dhritarashtra, when Duryodhana passed away in the war, and the first thing that happened was Vidura came back and gave him the same good counsel he had given before. Maybe this time it was far stricter, like you are your dog eating in Yudhishthir's kingdom, and very tough words that cut the mode of ignorance or the mode of attachment that Dhritarashtra had. And then just by not having association of Duryodhana, the same words that Vidura spoke again really impacted him, that he left the very night that Vidura spoke those words. It goes to show the importance of devotee association, and also the opposite, the association of non-devotees. So as you can see here, Parikshit Maharaj is Ajata Shatru. He does not see anybody as his enemy. But many people who are envious of him will likely see him as an enemy. And as a result, they may perform some negative activities towards him. But Parikshit Maharaj tries to see what is in his control and never retaliates with the same mood of envy against them. But Parikshit Maharaj himself is also praying that even if there are non-devotees in association with him, he would not see them as non-devotees. He would see them as equal. He says friendly relations with all living beings. He does not want to discriminate between devotees and non-devotees in that regard. But he would give. So what Parikshit Maharaj is trying to say is, rather than when someone associates, it's a two-way street. You get their association, and if you are representing yourself or the devotees, you are also giving them your association. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, with people who are devotees, we can take each other's association. But when we are interacting with non-devotees, rather than taking their association, I would like to give my association to them. So representing Krishna consciousness, or representing the devotional aspect, he would give them his association rather than take theirs. Because whenever we take association of somebody else, their consciousness kind of rubs off on us. And that's precisely why we see that we should always honor prasadam or interact with devotees and so on. So there's one pastime which happens just before the nectar of instruction was spoken to Jiva Goswami by Rupa Goswami. So I actually had a few other points to make as well. Like there's one time when there's a Gujarati devotee called Mr. Jariwala who gets all of the devotees and Prabhupada amongst his entourage to his home. And Mr. Jariwala was so kind and hospitable that he gave the choicest prasadam to all of the devotees. Actually, the devotees were suffering from dysentery and from like waterborne diseases, because that was one of their first visits to India. And so they were really struggling. So Mr. Jariwala opened his house for all of the devotees and Prabhupada to come and stay, and for them to, recuperate, recover, and then go on their journey. And it was actually very tough for Mr. Jariwala as well, because he had to make a lot of arrangements for all of the devotees. But on the day that the devotees were all, rested, recuperated, recovered, and they were supposed to leave, he called all of the devotees and Prabhupada to the main hall, and then he offered obeisances to all of them very kindly, and he apologized to all of them for any offense that he may have committed in his service for those few days that the devotees and Prabhupada was there. And Prabhupada says something very interesting. Prabhupada says, this is Vaishnava. Prabhupada said, this is real Vaishnava behavior. And the reason was because he offered obeisances, and he valued the Vaishnava, the Sadhu Sangha so deeply that he overlooked any faults that the devotees might have performed. And he felt that he was the greatest recipient in having their association. So he conveyed that to the devotees and Prabhupada, that he valued their association far, far more than how they left their home. Actually, Mr. Jariwala's home was not like in the best shape after the devotees were leaving. And also they were staying for a long period of time, and it was not, they didn't have one room for everybody. So it was, a smaller accommodation. But Mr. Jariwala was so happy that they came there, and he was telling them, you being here have converted this home into a Tirtha Yatra, or a place of pilgrimage, just by being here. And the way he valued the association was really impressive for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was saying, he was telling all his disciples, this is Vaishnava, this is Vaishnava behavior. He really values Sadhu Sangha. And okay. So the pastime I was going to mention with respect to Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, this happens when Rupa Goswami was writing the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then there is this person named Vallabha Bhatt, who's, I think he's Mayavadi. But he's a very well-known scholar who's trained under very good teachers. And he happens to just visit Rupa Goswami. And Jiva Goswami, he's right there. He is seeing. So if you see, Rupa Goswami was writing, and Jiva Goswami was listening, asking questions, solving his doubts. And he also has a commentary on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's very valuable to get his view on asking and solving all of his doubts with Rupa Goswami, who's the author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu himself. So he's sitting beside his uncle, Rupa Goswami, and Jiva Goswami sitting there. And then Vallabha Bhatt comes in, and he, like how guests come, oh, how are you doing? Well, how are you? What are you doing? And then he sees, oh, you're composing a verse for Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, let me see. And then he sees the verse. So the verse was something like, Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat Pishachi Hridi Vartate. So the verse says, the desire for mukti and bhukti, for sense gratification as well as desire for liberation, are compared to pishachi or witches. So then he sees this and he says, and he makes a comment. He says, well, I don't think that's right, because the liberation is also within the purview of the Vedic literatures. So it may be a little too harsh for you to say that bhukti and mukti both are like witches. So he kind of makes a comment and corrects Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami was like, okay, that's a good point. Thank you for saying whatever you said. And then he left after some pleasantries. Vallabha Bhatt left, and Rupa Goswami, he didn't change the words because of what Vallabha Bhatt said or anything. He was like, okay, he said something and he left. But Jiva Goswami he was angered by this situation. How dare he come here and try to correct Rupa Goswami, who's spotless? So he had this mood of anger, and so he followed Vallabha Bhatt. He went to Vallabha Bhatt's place, and then he told him, "I am Rupa Goswami's nephew, and I wanted to speak to you." And he said, "Oh yes, please tell me." And then he tells him that when Rupa Goswami wrote Bhukti Mukti Sprihayavat Pishachi Hidi Vartate, he did not mean that Bhukti and Mukti, that is liberation and sense gratification themselves, are witches. The desire for having this Bhukti Mukti Spriha, so the desire for liberation and the desire for sense gratification, the desire is compared to witches and not themselves. And then Vallabha Bhatt was like, oh, and he realizes, okay, so that was a mistake on my part. And then Jiva Goswami left after that, and he actually praises Jiva Goswami. Oh yes, you're very learned, and it's very apt that you're sitting beside your uncle when he's writing all these verses. And then he comes back, and he tells Rupa Goswami, he apologizes to Rupa Goswami. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that it was the desire that you're calling as witches and not the bhukti and mukti themselves. And he apologizes. And then Rupa Goswami is like, but I never told you anything. I just accepted whatever you said. Why did you suddenly come and say this? And then he's like, oh, no, I made a mistake. Your nephew was sitting here. He was the one who corrected me and told me what is the right way to look at it. And I'm sorry if I transgressed my boundaries. And he apologized, and Vallabha Bhatt left. And that time Rupa Goswami was actually upset with Jiva Goswami, and he calls Jiva Goswami and tells him that you were trained under Madhusudan Vachaspati in Prayag, near the banks of Kashi and Prayag. And there in Prayag, there's always a lot of debates going on everywhere. Many people want to show that I am better and my point of view and philosophy are better. So I will put forth my proofs in this manner, and then the other person will put forth their proofs, and then there'll be a debate, and then one person will win. And sometimes they may take the other person's disciples, and there are many things like that. But now Rupa Goswami is telling Jiva Goswami that this is not the mood I want in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, there should be a pure mood where nobody tries to transgress their boundaries and show these kind of emotions like lamentation and anger. So for this, I banish you from Vrindavan. You're not fit to be here. So what Rupa Goswami is telling is, by the association of his teachers, even though Madhusudan Vachaspati was his teacher who taught Jiva Goswami everything, the association with even his teacher, which is not in the mood of Vraja, was also a hindrance in his progress in spiritual life. So what Rupa Goswami did was he banished Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami went to the northern side of Vrindavan, just outskirts, and there was a hole that was under the ground built by a crocodile, and he spent his time under that, in that as his bhajan kutir. And he also took the vow that he would not eat anything that's touched by fire, in repentance for his mistake of correcting Vallabha Bhatt. So what he did was he would beg for some atta, he would mix it with water and just eat it. That would be how he would honor prasadam. He would not eat anything that's cooked by fire, or even beg some cooked rice, for example. He would only take some raw flour, mix it with water, and eat it. And Sanatan, after a year of this, Sanatan Goswami goes to Rupa Goswami and tells him, I think Jiva Goswami he's learned his lesson. And once somebody has already learned his lesson, we should not keep him in that position anymore. I think it's time to call him. And Rupa Goswami was like, yes, you're right. And then he calls back Jiva Goswami. And then he tells him one of the verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I think it's 115. I'll just read the translation. He says, what is the possibility of spontaneous remembrance of Mukunda for a person whose consciousness has become overrun by negativities like anger and lamentation? So there's actually a verse from the Padma Puran that Rupa Goswami quotes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he says, yeah, if for spontaneous devotional service, if anybody has even the slightest inkling of these negativities like anger or lamentation, spontaneous remembrance is not possible for them. And then he says, you wanted to instruct or give instructions to Vallabha Bhatt. And then he gives the first verse of the nectar of instruction. Vacho vegam, manasakrodha vegam, jivva vegam, udarupastha vegam, etan veganyo vishaheta sarvam apimam pitvimsa shishyat. Why Vallabha Bhatt? You can instruct everybody on earth if you have these. And he gives the first one as Vacho vegam, because he wanted Jiva Goswami to understand that he had transgressed a boundary by doing that. It's not in the mood of Vrindavan. So he says Vacho vegam is the first vega that he has to control. And then Jiva vegam, udara upastha vegam. Manasa krodha vegam. He says, if you have control over Jiva vegam, you should also control Manasa krodha vegam. It's because you had Manasa vegam and krodha vegam, that's anger and uncontrolled mind. That was the reason why you wanted to correct Vallabha Bhatt. And then he goes and he says, Jiva vegam, udara upastha vegam. And udara upastha, that is the belly and the genitals, and jiva is the tongue. All of these together are the 6 urges that when controlled, one can actually instruct others. And in the second and third verses, he lays emphasis on one part. He says, Atyahara prayasacha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha laulyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashati. And he says jana sangas should be given up. What should be given up? The association of non-devotees. And then the next verse he says, Utsaha nishya dhairya tattat karma pravartanat sanga tyagat sato vritte. He says sanga tyaga in the third verse, and second verse, jana sangascha. So he lays a lot of emphasis on giving up bad association. He says in the things that should not be done, bad association should be given up. In the things that should be done, bad association should be given up. He says it again. Out of the 12, 6 not to do, 6 to do, there's a repetition of bad association for that very reason. And that's exactly what we see that's being offered by, that's part of the prayer that's being offered by Parikshit Maharaj as well. One last thing I wanted to mention, there's a couple of things I want to mention, but maybe I'll just go with this. When Prabhupada said, he coined the term Krishna consciousness from one of the verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati. And then he says, Kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate, tatra laulyam api mulyam ekkalam. And for millions of birds, wait, sorry, I forgot. Sukritir na labhyate. So he says that the Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita is the, so actually he mentions it in 3 places. I think I noted it down. Where is it? Oh yeah. So he says, Srila Prabhupada is quoted in Journey of Self-Discovery. So this is the quote. He says, in another verse, Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyate Yadi Kutopi Labhyate. I have translated the words Krishna consciousness from Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. Here, Rupa Goswami advises, if Krishna consciousness is available, please purchase it immediately. Don't delay. It is a very nice thing. And then he also quotes it in multiple classes. And the reason, and I just wanted to delve a little bit deeper into this because it shows the intensity with which Parikshit Maharaj wants to hear. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. Mati is the consciousness, and that's where consciousness part of it comes into the ISKCON. But Bhavita is very important because as Suvarna Bindu Prabhu was asking last time about Chavan Prash, I was trying to find the reference because it's actually mentioned that the Chavana Rishi was the one who had the prash or the concoction or the jam that was made by Ashwini Kumaras. Actually, he was very old. he was very old and not invalid, but he didn't have his youthful energy anymore. So his wife Sukanya wanted him to become youthful again. So she went to the Ashwini Kumaras, who are the doctors or the physicians of the spiritual realm, and then they made this jam that Shavana Rishi can have. And when he had that jam, his youthfulness was back again. He was back to being young and very radiant and everything. So that is why it's called the Chavan Prash. So the Chavan Prash was actually what Shavana Rishi had. And and in Ayurveda, it's also mentioned that Bhavita is actually mentioned in Ayurveda. And it's also mentioned in this verse that we're talking about. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. In Ayurveda, for example, if you have to make a powder of amla, what you would do is you would make the powder of amla by drying out some amla juice, and then that powder is a certain concentration of amla. Now, when you add more amla juice to that powder and dry it again, that is called swabhavana. The amla's potency has been imbued with itself. So swa is itself, bhavana is its own potency. Now, when we keep performing this activity again and again, that concentration and the potency of the amla powder increases manifold. So it's called bahu swabhavana, like a lot of swabhavana, lot of its own potency is increased. And when it goes up to such a saturation level that it can no longer take a higher potency of amla, it is called bhavita. So Prabhupada is saying, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. The consciousness should be so soaked with Krishna Bhakti Ras, or the ras or mellows of bhakti associated with Krishna, that there is literally no more Krishna that one can possibly take without exploding. So he's trying to say that is the level of intensity with which one should hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's exactly what Parikshit Maharaj shows, because when we see in the verse that Vijay Prabhu quoted quite a while ago, is also mentioned in the Padyavali, where he mentions that Hanuman is out of the Navavida Bhakti, Hanuman is for Dasya, Seva Bhav, and he says Lakshmi is for Pada Sevanam. I forget the verse, but I remember Vijay Prabhu mentioning it. In that, two people are mentioned, for Shravanam and Kirtanam. For Shravanam, Parikshit Maharaj is mentioned, and for Kirtanam, for speaking, Shukadev Goswami is mentioned. So the speaker and the listener were both liberated because they were showing the highest degree of that type of devotional service of the Navavida Bhakti. So Parikshit Maharaj's intense hearing, also his really good questions for our benefit, and Shukadev Goswami's elaborate, eloquent presentation of the Srimad Bhagavatam both led to both of them being liberated at that very moment when they said it. And the intensity with which Parikshit Maharaj heard is what Prabhupada wanted to convey in the very name of our organization, that's ISKCON. And with that, I would like to end today's class. I went maybe a few minutes too late, but it's also December the 25th, so it's a holiday. So thank you all. I seek your blessings and also corrections so that I may improve my presentation. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Jai Hind Vishal Prabhu ki jai.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Nice class. Also, on paying obeisances in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that David Vijay Guru Pragya, the austerity of the body is to pay obeisances.
Oh.
Deva Dvija to Krishna first, Deva Dvija, the Brahmana, Deva Dvija Guru to the Guru, Pragya to saintly persons. This is the austerity of the body. One of the austerities. That's the first austerity, is to pay obeisances. And it's interesting that that's the easiest thing. And then there's the three: austerity of the body, austerity of the speech, and the austerity of the mind. So the most difficult thing, he goes from the most easiest thing, which is just pay obeisances, to the most difficult thing, which is to have a pure mind. Most easy to the most difficult.
It's a hierarchy. Oh, yes. Thank you, Guru. Easiest to difficult. Thank you. Did anybody have any corrections or reflections I'd like to share?
Actually, for a lot of people, to pay obeisance is very difficult. But in India, it's an easy thing to pay obeisance.
What is difficult? You was mentioning
Offering obeisances, Prabhu.
offering obeisances. Yeah.
Westerners.
Yes. Yes. True. Yeah. Many times the Indians also, I don't see them offering obeisances. Yeah. I think the culture is they're losing the culture. Yeah. I remember Guru Maharaj mentioned in one of the classes that when we bow down, we can just forget everything. That I don't have control on my situations, but Krishna, you can take control. I don't know what to do, so we can feel pacified by that presence. So I really like your Mukundamala Sutra verses, Prabhu. You really nail it down. I mean, do you know which words to quote for every shloka? You always find something from Kulshekar or whatever verse. It's a beautiful translation. That head is the loftiest, which is white with dust from bowing down to Lord Krishna. Those eyes are the most beautiful, which darkness has abandoned after they have seen Lord Hari. That intelligence is spotless, like the white glow of the moon, or a conch shell which concentrates on Lord Madhava. And that tongue rains down nectar, which constantly glorifies Lord Narayana. Wow, so beautiful. Thank you, Vishal, for such an ecstatic class and sharing us beautiful stories about Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami. It's beautiful, bro. How you have imbibed all the philosophy with the nice examples. Wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Vishal Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes.